And therefore, economic sectors and industries and business operators don't know what they're plugging into. So, I mean, we have our governments negotiating 5, 6 different trade agreements and forums, but we don't know what they're trying to get out of it.
Where is this vision supposed to come from?
It should come from a combined effort of the public and private sector. I think countries need to establish a vision for them, how they want to engage in.
Isn't that what you elect politicians for?
Well, then it goes back to what he just said.
Exactly. That's why I asked. Yeah.
We believe that we have to make like long-term plans, development plan, or like what Patricia said, development agenda, where we can divide, separate the political aspects in that economic and social development. A 10-year plan, 15-year plan, 20-year plan, where we can have an agenda for competitiveness, and where we can analyze sectors where we can emphasize on what development aid and resources to put on.
Let me just bounce that off the back. How do you feel about that, Patricia Francis?
I think competitiveness is obviously one of the huge challenges that the business communities are facing. Whether a 15-year plan or a 20-year plan is appropriate, I think it's probably more appropriate to create the right kind of mix so that the business community, the public sector, and everyone, that they can respond to the changes around them. I think that's the big challenge, that you don't want to put a plan of action in place which is going to, everybody's going to say that they're going to stick to in the next 20 years. That's not realistic. I think it's important to create the right kind of dialogue and environment that can modify. So, you know, when we talk about modernizing government, it should be that government can respond to the environment. So you don't change the law today and 100 years from now go back to see whether it's good or bad. I think you have to have a review mechanism. And that's true of government, and that's also true of business. So creating the right kind of knowledge systems which allow people to be able to respond and to understand what's happening in the environment. This is the key to competitiveness in my view.
Okay.
If you want to see how export can be developed, go to Shanghai, where in 1991-92 we, Formosa, set up the Waigashow Special Economic Zone, which contributes very heavily to the $60 billion worth of exports from China. If you don't want to go that far, go to Ireland, which was transformed by free zone, special economic zones, from an agricultural country to an industrial power in 2 decades.
The feeling of the group is that there needs to be action on 4 different fronts. The first relates to government officials, and the group feels that there needs to be intensified effort in training government officials on the application of trade and trade-related rules, particularly in developing countries. Second, there is a need to, at the company level, to address supply-side production and marketing constraints, particularly their inadequate understanding of standards, quality, contract enforcement, and just the basic export mentality. At the trade support institution level, it was felt that there's a substantial lack of capacity of some of these TSIs to help enterprises in their product and market development, which requires a big effort. And finally, the group felt that there needs to be a more serious gender focus in the mentoring, training, and hand-holding of businesses owned and managed by women. They felt that the women entrepreneurs should be supported and encouraged as a priority, as they represent a growing proportion of small, medium, and micro enterprises across the world, and they felt that ITC could play a role there.
If you look at the growth, numbers tell us that if you look at the growth in the developed world in terms of market size, the purchasing power of women has contributed more to the expansion in the economies than globalization, so to speak. Because 50%, if you even consider that you put 30% of the people into the workforce, and then they have a buying power with their earnings, what does that do to your market size? So just from the perspective of market size alone, if you have no interest in gender issues, you better think about women. And certainly our research has also told us that it's not the same when you are putting policy together. You do have to have a gender bias. Now, in some countries, like the one I come from, women are pretty much out there in the forefront.